Over the years of bikepacking, I have realised that the things that keep a trip enjoyable are rarely the big dramatic moments. It is usually the small habits, the quiet rules you follow without really thinking about them. These are not official rules. They are not things you have to do. They are simply the guidelines I live by when I am out on my bike for multiple days. Some of them are about safety, some are about comfort, some are just about making life a little bit easier when you are tired, wet, or miles from anywhere. None of this is complicated, but taken together, these small decisions make a big difference. So these are the bikepacking rules I live by. One rule I live by when I'm bikepacking, especially when I'm riding solo, is simple. Know your limits and don't push them. There's a time to ride trails fast, test yourself and work on becoming a more skilled rider. I enjoy that side of cycling, but a loaded bikepacking trip miles from anywhere, it's just not the time, especially not when you're on your own. If I even have the smallest doubt about a section of trail, I'll just get off and push, up or down, it doesn't matter. Set the ego aside. If there is a chance a mistake could mean a crash, an injury, or even just a broken bike in the middle of nowhere, it's just not worth it for me. I get a lot more out of a ride when I finish in one piece. There are plenty of trails I know I could probably ride, and if I was out on a normal ride with friends, I probably would. But alone, with bags on the bike and no one around, I choose not to take that risk. You can never be completely sure nothing will go wrong though, of course. Most crashes happen when you least expect them. The sections you've ridden 100 times, the places where you relax and become complacent, all because you feel comfortable. That's often where things go wrong. So when it comes to bikepacking, my rule is straightforward. No pushing limits, no riding trails that could easily turn bad and leave you stranded hours from help. Those limits do change over time as you gain experience, your comfort zone grows, and if I'm riding with someone else. I might take on sections I would not attempt solo, but the principle stays the same. For me, sticking to this rule has meant more time riding and fewer unnecessary problems, and on bikepacking trips, that trade-off is always worth it, in my opinion. Another rule I live by, especially here in the UK, is simple. Set up late and leave early. When it comes to camping on bikepacking trips, I use the sun as my clock. The exact time depends on the season, but I aim to set up my tent just as it's starting to get dark. In the morning, it's the same idea, just in reverse. As soon as it begins to get light, I'm getting up and packing away. There are a few reasons for this. The main one is simple. Once it starts getting dark, most people are heading home off the trails. By setting up late, I reduce the chances of anyone seeing me. The same applies in the morning. If I'm packed and rolling as the day begins, there's far less chance of a dog walker stumbling across my camp spot. Although I'm a lot less fussed if they do by the time I'm getting up in the morning. There's also something interesting that happens at sunset. Finding a good camp spot in full daylight can actually feel just a lot harder. But as the sun drops lower, you get a real sense of the area you are in. You get a sense where camping will be good and where it won't be. You get an idea what it would look like looking away towards the trail and if you will be visible or not. It's hard to explain, but just before dark, the good camp spots seem to reveal themselves. You can spend ages riding around in bright light, struggling to find somewhere suitable. Then the sun starts to dip, and suddenly options appear everywhere. Leaving early is not just about avoiding attention, it's also the best time of the day to ride. In the summer, when the sun rises at around 4:30 in the morning, I can get a few solid hours of riding completely to myself. Even if the trails are not usually busy, that early quiet feel is different. By midday in the summer months, I've even covered most of the distance I would have wanted to do. That means I can ease into the afternoon, take my time and enjoy it without chasing miles. That's the real reason I leave early, the solitude, the momentum and the stillness that the mornings bring. My rule when it comes to resupplying does change slightly depending on where I am riding, but I've built a habit around two things. First, I always know where the next shop is along the route, or roughly. Second, whenever I pass one, I either stop or at least properly check what I have left in my bags. I can't tell you how many times I used to think I had enough food to get me through the day, only to realise I'd either eaten more than expected or forgotten what I'd already gone through. After long days in the saddle, your brain just gets a bit tired. And small mistakes like that are surprisingly common. It happened more when I first started out. These days, it rarely does. But that's mostly because I force myself into the habit of checking. Even if I don't think I need anything, I'll just double check what's left or just pop into a shop and top up. When you are starting out, it's very easy to underestimate how much your body is actually burning. Even if you ride regularly, once you add bags and extra weight to your bike, your body has to work harder. It's just facts. You're moving more mass for more hours, often on rougher terrain, and that adds up quickly. For me, resupply is less about reacting when I run low and more about staying ahead of it. Running out of food miles from anywhere is avoidable. A quick check and a small top up can save you a long, uncomfortable few hours later when you are bonking. There are few things worse than getting to camp and having to put up a wet tent, so I have a simple rule. If it has rained overnight or is still raining when I pack up in the morning and I later get a dry window, I will always stop for 20 or 30 minutes to dry that tent out. I'll hang the tent over a bench, a fence, a signpost or whatever I can find and just let the air do its thing. Not only does that make life much nicer when you set up again later, it also helps the tent last longer and smell a lot less. It's not always possible. Sometimes it just rains all day, all night, and you have no choice but to deal with it. Or I just can't get the time if the miles are taking longer than expected, but whenever I get an opportunity, I take it. The good thing about modern lightweight tents is that they dry surprisingly quickly, especially if there is even a bit of wind. I'm mainly talking about the outer here because I do my best to keep the inner dry in the first place. I usually pack the inner separately in its own dry bag, but even then I will let it air out if I get the chance. I've tried carrying small drying cloths in the past, but find it far easier just to wait for a dry spell and let the tent air dry properly rather than trying to wipe it down with a towel. There is the also unexpected bonus when you stop in a village or a park and drape your tent over a bench. It often sparks conversation. People get curious about what you are doing, where you are heading and where you've been. And some much needed human contact from time to time is good on a bikepacking trip, especially when you've been in the mountains for days and you haven't seen anyone. This one does not happen very often, and it depends a lot on the situation and location. But as a general rule, if I set up camp and someone sees me doing it, I move on. It's not a strict rule everywhere. If I'm in a remote part of Scotland or high up a mountain, it feels a bit different. The people you see in those places are usually out there for the same reasons. You can normally tell they are not going to care and they are probably looking for their own camp spot anyway. It is more relevant when I am following routes that pass through more built up areas or places where you are likely to see more dog walkers and locals. It does not happen often, as I like to think I'm fairly good at finding small hidden spots that are obviously not used by others. But there have been a couple of occasions where I've been setting up and someone has appeared out of nowhere. They have never said anything, and in all honesty, they probably did not care. But I still stick to the rule and move on, even if it's only a short distance away. The reason is simple. If someone does decide to mention it to someone else, they will not actually know where I ended up. It removes any doubt and lets me relax and sleep much better. It's also important to understand the rules around wild camping here in the UK, and while I won't go into it here because I have gone into it in depth, which I'll leave a little link to, but when it comes to getting a good night's sleep, peace of mind matters. Knowing that no one knows where you are makes it far easier to properly switch off, rest, and enjoy them dreams. This one, again, is not always possible, and I'm quite happy riding all day in the rain if I need to. But despite popular belief, while the UK does get plenty of rain, especially at the moment, it is actually less common for it to rain non-stop all day. More often than not, it comes in showers. Sometimes you just have to accept the wet life and keep moving. It's just the way it is. But if it's only a short shower and I can see it passing through, I will always try to find some shelter and just wait it out. As the day goes on, this becomes more important for me. If I get soaked late in the day and there is no time to properly dry out before camp, setting up in the rain can feel miserable. Arriving dry, or at least mostly dry, makes the whole evening far more comfortable and easier. Whether it's hiding in a bus shelter, standing under a tree, or tucking into the side of a building, if I can stay dry, I will. I am never racing against the clock, so losing 20 or 30 minutes to a passing shower does not really matter. In fact, those pauses, those moments of just waiting, often become some of the most peaceful moments of the day. Sitting under tree cover, listening to the rain hit the leaves, watching the world pass by. Then, when it clears, you roll on, a little drier and a little more comfortable. It's not always possible, but when the option is there, I take it. Life on the bike is hard enough without choosing to be wetter than you need to be. When I am bikepacking, part of the reason is to escape things like phones. But there is no denying that the device you carry every single day is one of the most valuable bits of kit you have. Not because of what it costs, but because what it can do in an emergency. My rule is simple: keep it somewhere you can always reach it. I see some people leave their phone in a bag on their bike or buried deep in a backpack. Personally, I keep mine somewhere I know I could reach it, even if I was on the ground injured. Leaving it on the bike feels fine right up until you crash and cannot get back to the bike. When I crashed into that boulder a couple of years ago, if my phone had been mounted on the bike or buried in a bag, there is no way I would have been able to reach it, and that would have meant no way to call for help. The same goes for your satellite communication device if that's what you're relying on in remote areas. It needs to be within reach at all times. A device you cannot access is useless. There is a balance to it though, I'll admit. If you keep your phone somewhere easy to reach, that is also often somewhere you might land in a crash and you risk damaging it. If it is tucked away safely in a bag, it will probably survive a fall, but that does not help if you cannot get to it. For me, accessibility wins, even if maybe there is a higher chance it gets damaged. Alongside that, I am strict about battery. I make sure I either have enough charge or a reliable way to top it up, partly because I want it available for emergency and partly because I'm trying to switch off. On most trips, my phone is often off at night, and during the day it's either completely off or on aeroplane mode, depending on where I am and the trip I'm on. Less usage means less battery drain and fewer distractions. Come to think of it, carrying an old backup phone would not be the worst idea either. None of these rules are groundbreaking, they are not extreme, they are not designed to make a trip look more impressive. They are simply habits that have made my time on the bike more enjoyable, more comfortable, and in some cases, safer. You will probably develop your own over time. Some of them will come from experience, some will come from mistakes, and some you will ignore until the trip forces you to learn the lesson the hard way. Drop a comment down below and share your bikepacking rules that you live by.